G'day and welcome. In this video we're going to be looking at some EJ Holden Grey Motor stuff. We have a good look at one of the blocks and then we get another block and have a look at that and a head and a crankshaft and all this sort of stuff. We go down to the machine shop to find out exactly what we need to do with these things. I have a way of changing my mind and wanting to do things a certain way, then realising it's not really going to cut it and then committing to a full thing, but anyway. And also, I've just been, over the last week, aside from all the teaching stuff that I have to do, been doing work around the house, cleaning up, that sort of stuff. And there's a little bit on a gate and stuff. If you want to fast forward that, it's 5 minutes or so. With that being said, I hope you enjoy. Oldie Holden Grey Motor. And this is how Graham picked it up. I don't know where it came from, but it looks fairly shabby. The thing is, it wasn't all that bad. And this is the motor that came with the Corolla, or at least half of it came with the Corolla, if you like. And I think he pulled the head off it, had a look, and here it is here. And it doesn't look too bad. I do apologise for the quality of the photos. But you can see a bit of wear at the top of the bores there. But anyway, he put it back together, painted it up and started it. It did blow a fair bit of smoke, so that's why we're rebuilding it. And of course, there was a whole bunch of other bits and pieces that were available with this EJ in terms of engine parts. But we'll start with this one here. Got to learn a bit about these because I don't know much. Now this thing was a runner from Graham's. It came in the back of the Corolla. It's a 138, but I don't know if it started as a 132. According to the number on it, it's a 1960 engine, and so it could well have been an original 138, not an overboard 132. Now the problem with these, we've got a 3.06 bore, 132's had a 3-inch, 138's had a 3.06. So your 138, from what I can gather, is just 60 thousandths in the bore bigger. The stroke is 3.125, so 120 thousandths over 3-inch. And a lot of the piston kits you're getting for these are the same, so it becomes a square motor. The problem with those, brings them out to 144 cubic inch. Not sure what these are like for core shift, but I imagine they're fairly average. Now, this thing ran like a Swiss watch, but apparently blew enough smoke. There's a photograph I'll put on and I'll show you what I'm talking about because he sent it to me. And here's Smoking Joe. Apparently it ran well, but it virtually poured oil down the exhaust. I've taken the main bearing caps off. The pistons that came with it had original bearing sizes on the big end, so they're only 1,000ths under. And Holden used to do that. I know they used to do 1, 2 and 3 thousandths under. I think Ford did too. Or maybe I'm getting my wires crossed, one of them did. But, you know, they did that with pistons and bearings to best fit the blocks. The cam bearings are still in it. They do look a bit dodgy. So obviously we're going to have to change those out. I can't even see here if it's got them in the middle. It looks like the middle ones have been taken out already. The two end ones are in though. It's the bores I'm interested in because I don't really want to bore it, even though I think we all know I'm going to have to. I'm going to flip it over now and we'll have a look. Now, I'm in a bit of a pickle with this because I'm not really sure which way to go. This is the block that came with the Corolla, and they produce roughly the same power as a whippersnipper, just without the revs. 75 horsepower on a 138, I think, and pretty much anything under that for a 132. And so we just need to see what we've actually got, and just try and clean up, because I don't want to blindly bore anything out if I don't have to. It does look like it's got a ridge though. I mean, it would. But I don't know. If it's got oversized markings on the edge like a BMC motor, it means it's never been decked. But I'd be inclined to skim it anyway. That being said though, the engines, as I say, don't really produce an awful lot of power. The car's the EJ Holden that's going in, and it will be a weekend plotter. Now, I've got no bones of boring engines, but I only like boring them if they absolutely need it. So I just want to, while I'm out here in the air and just talking, I just want to scrape some of the rust off. As we said, we're not going to be driving this car as an everyday car. It's just going to be a sort of a nice done up classic, and I'm not in the financial position where I can just blow 10 grand on an engine, if you know what I mean. And this engine would take, to build properly with all brand new everything, you're not going to get much change out of about $6,000 or $7,000, and frankly I haven't got that. Now this is not really very accurate doing it with a spirit level. I've got a 5,000ths feeler here. I need a proper straight edge. If I turn this around, you get a different reading. I don't know. It is fairly consistent. So look, there are gremlins here, and the problem is, like, I can probably just feel that. The problem is though, is that of boring. The two piston sizes you can get are 60 and 120. That's the bit I don't like. There are some gremlins in number 1. I think there's one over there, but these are old. There's been damage in that bore. There's a couple of scrapes. I've assembled engines a lot worse looking than this, I'll tell you now. But the dilemma is this. I don't want to bore at 60 because the two main sizes, I've been in touch with, you can go JP Pistons, $900 for a set, don't want it. There's Nason as well, and Nason do, I think, 60 and 120 over. And I don't want either of those either. This could be a 138 block. I think it's a 1960 block, as I said. I think I said that before. And so it's likely it was a 138. I'd sooner clean the bores up a bit more and just put it back together, which is kind of the wrong thing to do. But I don't want to max the block, because to max the block means you're going to be spending a lot of money, right? So you're boring and decking and doing all this other stuff, as well as oversized pistons, everything. And then you've got your rocker gear, and you know the rockers sit on a shaft which quite often needs replacement, and there's bushes to buy and all sorts of things. And at the end of the day, you're putting all this money into a block you've absolutely maxed, and I just don't want to go that way. I would sooner clean up what's here and put it back together with new bearings and, you know, grind the crank and all that sort of stuff. So at least you've got some hope of reusing some of those parts in another block if something better comes along. Now Craig, bless him, has a block that's been rebored to 3125, which is 120 over a stock 132 or 60 over a stock 138. I don't know what that engine was originally from or what year it is. And he's got the pistons for it. We'll have a look at those in a minute. And the rings, well oversized from here. They won't fit in here. But it needs a sleeve putting in. And I don't even know what the parent bore is going to be like. And when I spoke to the engine builder, he didn't remember the engine. And for that matter, has no record of sonic testing or anything like that. These engines are really old. And so rust in the water jackets and stuff is likely to be a real problem. So we're either going to spend a lot of money on something which is maxed out, or spend little money on this and go with it, because that's the only sense I can really make out of it at the moment. The rest of this block actually looks pretty good. It's not as bad as I thought, although we've got about 5,000ths there. It should be decked. Let's swing it round. There's wear. Some of this is very old though, I think. And there's a tiny ridge, very, very insignificant. The other thing I've noticed with this, I thought I could see it without the camshaft in it, there's actually no bearing shells in here and here. There's a front and rear one, but I can see light around the cam. This is Craig's camshaft, not the original one that came with this engine. So there's all sorts of kind of unknown variables here. Let's go and have a look at these other bits. Right, so this little item here, and don't worry about the dirty workbench, I couldn't care less because we're not really using some of this stuff. Well, I say some of it. Oil ring, yeah, 2 compression rings and a ring spacer. Ring spacers are very unusual. I've never actually seen one. There's a tiny bit of wear on that, but they're not meant to protrude past the piston itself. So when they're installed, they sit in a groove and provide space so you've got the right ring to land clearance. And normally I would think and I've never done this too, but it wouldn't be hard to do, is you'd pop the piston off, stick it in the lathe, run a parting bit in, take 20 thousandths out or whatever it is, put it in and set up your ring to groove clearance. Now these pistons, although they're old, look pretty good. I'd be fine with reusing those. But I was a little bit dubious about using an old piston with ring spacers. Now, the ring spacers, hang on, let me think about this. The piston gets pushed down, so the ring spacer would want to be on the top of the piston. Is that the case here? Therefore giving it a little bit of strength, reinforcement. Now if I get this feeler gauge, this is 1.5 thousandths, and I'm not going to take these measurements seriously because these things are filthy, and I pop it in there, there's probably a couple of thousandths in there really. That's tight. That's 1.5 thousandths. If I push that ring in, that's actually dragging. I would be fine with using those pistons again with the ring spacers. Right there. And a set of new stock rings. Now, these, if you remember, we stuck one of these in. They're all rusty and horrible. And there's where. In the bore, the ringing gap was sort of out here somewhere. You know, probably 60 thousandths, 70 thousandths of wear. But as I look at this thing, there's a couple of things. It's thinner in that area there, I can see. And also there's a little bit of wear on the face of it. So I reckon a new set of stock rings would actually help that. Now, again, can't find them. No one's doing stock pistons for these things. You can't find 3.065 or whatever inch 138 pistons for a grey. You just can't. You can get them custom made at JP, about $900. And as I said, you combine that with the rebore, this, that, and the next thing, you've maxed your block and you've spent a fortune. Not going to go down that road. I rang Auto Surplus and they think, well, they haven't confirmed this yet, but they think we can get a set of stock rings. And so we clean these up, put those back in on the top. Stock rings might get us just through, if you know what I mean. Rods and pistons look good. Bearings in this thing. And again, this is the wrong crankshaft I've got with it because I think Graham's still got the crank that came out of this thing. Bearings look munted, but we're not caring at the moment. I'm just going to try and pop that out. And they say that's 1 thousandths under. So they are factory sized bearings. Now, I'm just going to put these to the side. And Craig, so what I'm trying to do is build a grey out of a couple of old greys that Graham's given me half of. I've got to watch space here. And Craig Anderson, who's a wonderful parent of school, has a band and shit with a project he's doing as well. And so he had some parts too. Now this crank has been ground. This is Craig's. I don't know what it's been ground to, probably 1010 or 2020 or something. The original crank out of that motor hadn't been ground. It's on its original one. So I wouldn't mind the original crank that came with this grey. So then it would be a better one to get ground, because if you just go 10 and 10 under, that's perfect on a 60-year-old engine. I haven't got a problem with that. But I don't know if I'll use this one. But you know, so far so good. That's what you got to do. You got to kind of get through bits and pieces. Although this one was, to find what you want, this one was apparently crack tested and came up all right, and he did get a few of them tested at the time. Well, I guess we all know how untidy my place is, particularly the mess in the garage. I'm still cleaning up in there. I did that hedge a little while ago, but I love cleaning up. It's awesome. That mower shouldn't be there. Right, so I've done that corner. I've just got to put those in the shed and bunch of other stuff. Just looks so much better out there. It was just dog stool territory, and I actually pressure washed that yesterday, and we moved the table. It was covered in horse rugs and it was just shabby, so got some stuff drying. I haven't got a clothesline. I pulled it out to put a couple of sheds in. This gate I found on a rubbish pile about 10 years ago, and it's been behind our other gate at the front, and I figured, you know what, now's a good time, because we need a gate for the side down there. All this, the spa's going, and all this fence is going to be renewed, and there's ivy and all sorts of stuff up there, but we've got to sort of get a fence extension because I want So I figured a gate for the side. Don't know how we're going to go welding this. I think it's just black steel, I'm not really sure. But obviously some rungs are missing, and I've got to narrow it. But I love the look of it. It's off someone's front gate that moved out and their house was knocked down the road. Backyard doesn't look very good. There's still some work to do here. Gradually cleaning these sheds out. I reckon I'll cull one of them. I might actually convert that into a MG workshop. I don't know. I might. I don't know how viable this is, but I need to get an extension at the back, and I don't really want to take all the backyard up, although it is a dog's toilet and it's pathetic. But I figured eventually I'll get a permit and I'll build it out or move. I'll probably end up moving out of here, but for now I reckon if we just cut a hole in the garage, cut a hole inside the shed, bolt up these doors and just use it as an extension. I don't know, it's always very dry in there. It's a crap shed, but it'll keep the car warm. So just a matter of continuing with this, I think. Cutting it to size and doing what we can with it. It's a lovely old gate. I've actually chopped bits out of the old one and welded, hang on, one rung there, two there, shortened it, and welded a reinforcing on the other side. I can't mount it yet because this whole fence is going to get pulled down. I've just got to sort of hope the dogs don't get in or get out, and that'll hold that for now. But it's a beautiful old piece and it was off a rubbish pile. Spar's going. I'm trying to get rid of that at the moment. And pruned a couple of trees. There's a pond over here that's been fishing here for 14 years and they've finally died, I think. So I'm not looking forward to cleaning that out. I normally clean it out every spring, and they were right yesterday. There was 4 to start with. A cat fished one out, and then we had 3 left, and one died a couple of years ago. And now I've just got to condense these 2 sheds. I reckon half of this can get thrown out. I've just got to go through it, but there's a lot of things like Toyota stereos and CD players, and also a lot of candle making stuff. When Charlie had a business, some mower bits, some of that can get thrown out actually. Briggs for $1 in here. Lovely old Super Swift. But I reckon once we've cleaned that one out and that's all Suzanne stuff, like spare stuff, well then that'll free this up. And either I'll throw it out or just take a big hole in there and park a car in there. And the kids have cleaned up the backyard. It was like a toilet before, but it was looking alright. I mowed it the other day, but the problem in spring is the grass grows so quickly that you're mowing it every week. Right, I think now I'll fit this CD player in the Corolla. I like to keep bits of wood from projects and reuse them. I reuse everything, unless it's just pointless. There's very few bits in here that have been there for a long time. I normally always pull them out and reuse them. We'll give April a little CD player. This one sort of tested alright. I'll just see how she works in the car. The car. I haven't done anything on cars, and it's about time I did. Killers and think I'm mad, but my brother and I are considering an MGA because I've got that beautiful 1620 engine which has been overboard I think 30,000s. It's absolutely perfect. John's found an MGA head and manifolds and everything for it, and every now and then you see them pop up knackered, and so that's going to be another project. Oh, now Corolla. This seems to work quite well. Better turn it off before I get done for copyright, but that works really, really well. I'm rapt. Oh my goodness. The bloody wind's up and it's blown the cover off this car. But what I've done with the XD is, sorry about the wind, I've changed this out again. That's sender down there, and that's from Harvey. He also sent me a recalibrated oil pressure gauge, and I haven't put that in yet. Because I've got to change the globes out because I put 5 watt globes in. That's the best way to fry up the bottom of your dash, so I've got to take those out again. But I think this is all going to be alright now. Perfect. That is awesome. Good. I'm happy with that. That's what the doctor ordered. We're going to pick Rosie up. I'm in the Commodore until I put the screen back in the Starlet. It's nice to be able to drive this car again. It's pretty powerful. Anyway, I'm not allowed to drive and film at the same time, so I'll be back. Right, cylinder head. Doesn't look that great. It looks like it's had seats put in, some of them, but inlet one's not exhaust. But actually, no, that's got wear in it there. Maybe that hasn't been replaced. Oh yeah, no, that's just the casting on the head there. I'm not sure. He said it had seats in it, but why would you put seats in without cleaning all this off? I'm going to go down to the engine reconditioner with this and the crank and the block, and I think he's going to tell me to go away unless I do a complete overhaul. And I'm not sure what I want to do with this because, as I said before, I don't want to bore it and then spend millions of dollars on an engine that's maxed. So I'm going to have a look. I'm going to get him to look at it. No, they've not been reseated. They've been used before. I'm going to take it down and see what he says. Right, well, I've gone down to the engine reconditioner and I've dropped the head, the crank and the block off. Now the block, I'm in two minds about. Well, there's a couple of ways we can go with this. The bore, one of the bores is really a little bit unhealthy, so it might just be a waste of money trying to get the thing in any sort of running nick. I'm not rapt about these things being parted for ring spaces either. But at the end of the day, it's worth getting the head done. The head had been crack tested previously, but there was no other work done on them. So it was crack tested and pressure tested, and that's all good. And the crank was crack tested and ground 20 under sometime in the past. So, pardon me, there's room to play with that. And I told him, deck the block, put cam bearings in, but I'm still in two minds. Now, Craig Anderson is no relation to me. He's a parent from school, and he'd actually spent some money on his block, which is 60 over, and it's been bored, but one of the bores needs a sleeve in it, and I'm assuming, and I forgot to ask if it had been what do you call it, sonic tested. Now Craig had these pistons, or we bought these pistons for it, and these are 60 over, and this is what I'm talking about. This whole Grey Motor bizzo is a bit of a mind screw because it says standard on them, and he bought these for it, and of course he's changed plans, doesn't want to use them. In saying that though, there's no pins in there, clips in there. I don't know what the clips are, but anyway. And alongside those, he also bought these rings. Now, they're just basic cast rings. I don't think there's any, normally there's a molly top ring and they just use cast on the, what do you call them? On the second ring. How to get this out? Hang on, let me just, I don't want to screw the box too much. On the off chance I don't end up using them, but gosh. Okay. Now these are just your standard cast rings. Is that the, and regardless, they're going to be fine. So it might be better to use his block and get a sleeve put in one of the cylinders, and because the rest of it's done, the rest of the boring and everything's done, and just going with all this new stuff, and then paying Craig for what he wants for this stuff. I'm not really sure. I wanted to use the block that came, that Graham put in the car, the Corolla. So I think at this stage I might go and see Craig and see if he's still got that block there, and take that down to Tony, so there'll be the two blocks. I'll keep that crank he's got because it's been crack tested and I know it's good, and it's got meat on it so it can be machined. And the cylinder head, obviously that's been crack tested and everything. He's talking about putting all this stuff in the hot tank over the weekend and having a good look at it. But I think Craig's block's also been sort of half done as well, so I might ring him first thing in the morning to see how I go. So that's where I am with the engine. The rest of it I'm not worried about. It might mean skimming the head, putting guides in it and all this sort of stuff, because, and seats as well. So a head can be quite expensive, but you know, we'll just see. And I'll leave it there for now because I'm not really sure at the moment which direction I want to go in. As far as other bits and pieces are concerned, we've got a few here. Fuel pump, Yeah, that's a gorgeous piece, and I mean, you hydroblast this stuff and it'll come up looking brand new, and you can get kits and this sort of stuff for them. So this is a very good core by the look of it, and provided it's not cracked, I can't see any problem with it. Of course, we'll, plate all your bolts and just make it look all nice. That's your reg. Again, do what we need to do as far as blasting and plating and painting and this sort of stuff, and also rebuilding any parts that need rebuilding in it. And I love the look of the old stuff. Of course, alongside that goes a generator. This thing sounds knackered. Bearings completely fried on it. I don't know what the insides are like. But again, I can't see any reason why I can't rebuild that. If looking at the commutator, it's a very thick commutator. If you look in there, I don't know if you can see, I'm going to take my glove off, but I've changed my mind. I can resurface that and do what I need to do with it. It does look a lot like what comes off the BMC ones, and I had a very good generator I gave to my brother with that 1622 BMC engine, which has all been it's ready to be built now. It's all been sort of put together, and well, not put together, it's been machined and all the parts new and this sort of stuff. So I could actually at a pinch use one like that on this Holden, but I don't know, I'd sooner just try and fix what's here because that's the right kit for it. Wiper motor again. Some of these are a funny rattle can blue colour. I'm not really partial to that, but again, unless this thing's totally fried, I should be able to, when it's rotating, I should be able to make good with that. Of course, the rocker cover looks wonderful. One or two little scrapes and dents in it, but nothing that I think is too serious. There's a little one there and that sort of stuff, but it's overall in incredible condition. There's nothing wrong with it really at all. Oh crap, that was my light. And this looks pretty good. Looks like someone's rattle can in there. We've been inclined to try and clean that. That's not something you would get hydroblasted because obviously you're going to get glass shot in there, and I don't want that appearing anywhere. I might give that to Tony and just get him to stick it in his acid bath and see if he can pull the badness out of that. There's also this lovely antique starter motor, which looks beautiful. Again, it's grotty, but the Bendix is free in it. And it rotates, so that's cool. I don't see any reason why I can't fix that. But again, you can't tell unless you actually pull it apart to make sure that it's not completely munted. Timing cover, of course, as well. It's got a weird seal in it. It actually looks like it might be really scaly underneath that paint, but we can't tell at the moment. And we've got cam followers, which look like ours. They'd have to be resurfaced. I don't know if you resurface these or you replace them. I'm sure you can resurface them. They were a better set that Craig had with the other motor. These are from Graham. So I'll take that and I'll take the other cam down, which I've got there. What about the gearbox? Right, so we've got our little gear bank here. As far as this is concerned, this is kind of right up my alley because it represents a load of junk, which I want to make as close to new as possible. And so a lot of it, again, we're going to bang on about hydroblasting, particularly on these aluminium bits. But I'm not going down there at the moment because it's outside the 5-kilometre limit. And I was thinking about this. The tax department, I pay tax on what I earn on YouTube and also through Patreon. And they have classed this as a business, even though I haven't got an ABN, which is an Australian business number. They said if you're filming, editing and doing it for profit, which to begin with I wasn't doing it for profit, but they said, well, you're paying tax on this because this is what you're doing. So if they're going to call it a business, I'll treat it as a business, mask up and get that stuff done. But I just didn't feel like getting it done at the moment because it's Delta cases are going nuts. So this is from an EJ Holden, or at least the extension hasn't because there's a mount there. So that would have been on a red motor at some point. But we want to take it off. It rotates freely. There's a shim there which we've got to keep, and that snout with the thrust bearing which is seized on there. I can't get that off, but we'll be careful when we take that off. We don't want to do any damage to it. And to my, well, Graham had warned me that this thing's got water in it. So if that's the case, which it is, because damn, I don't like the idea of doing this. Hang on a second, can I hit it from underneath? If that's the case, which it invariably is, it doesn't matter. I'll just make sure that it's going to be all rebuilt anyway. There's some little locating dowels there which are probably rusted in. Just a moment. And that looks absolutely peachy perfect. That looks lovely. Beautiful. And it's just in gorgeous condition. So we've locked on. I don't really know the gear sets in these too well, but that's fantastic. Really, really good. So this looks like I won't need, or at least I don't want to speak too soon, but it doesn't look like it needs anything in the way of gear sets, which I was keeping the other one as spares. So the water in it must have been in the tail shaft in the extension housing section. I might just whip that off quickly and have a look. I feel guilty pulling this apart while it's so dirty, but well, there's the water. And it's completely unscathed. That is absolutely perfect. So this is a peach. That's perfect. So look, I feel bad about pulling this apart while it's in, it's in such a dirty state, but it doesn't matter. Even the selector mechanisms look great. So this is a peach. This is a good one from what I can see so far. I'm very, very happy with it indeed. So what I want to do is we'll rebuild the gearbox, rebuild the engine, put them together with a new clutch and stick it on a mobile stand like we did with the BMC, and we'll start him up, we'll run him, all this sort of other stuff, and then I can take my time with the car and just overhaul bits and pieces. So we'll have a complete engine gearbox that's going to be all done and finished, and a regulator, and we've got a dashboard, and then we'll go through the wiring loop, all this sort of stuff, so that the boring part, or at least the part that I find the least satisfying, is bodywork, which I'm always banging on about, but I think this is a great way to go, because these parts are just so great from what I can see so far, that sitting on an engine stand looking brand spanking new and starting and running nicely is going to be a great morale booster for it. Right, here's the other block, and that's what it was bought out, 1.5 mil, so 60. They're the standard pistons, the ones I've got, and they're the same. So this was a stock 138 bore, and they've taken it out 60. There's marks in there because of surface rust and that sort of thing, and this is the one that's going to need sleeving, but that looks awful around there. So I'm going to take that back and get him to have a look at it. It's got a coach bolt sort of thing sitting here, I don't know what that's about. But there's a set of pistons, which I don't know what they're like, but they don't have any ring spaces on them. I'll have to clean them up and have a look. And a few other bits and pieces. I've got more of this stuff. They're the rings for that MGA engine. I go to my brother, and I'll just put them on the seat. I don't remember the other one having little plugs on the inside of the cam where the cam bearings go. Speaking of which, yeah, it needs cam bearings putting in it, which is obvious. You can see how nice they look. I had this weird bolt arrangement for a block drain. And it's got like little plugs everywhere, but I don't remember them being sort of on the other one, but I could be wrong. As Tony measured, they're 20 under on the big ends, and the mains are the same. So I'm going to take this stuff. I'll take the pan. Normally I'd hydroblast that, but I can't get to the hydroblaster at the moment. And the same with the manifolds. I'll just, while I'm paying for a hot tank, might as well throw that in, see what he says. And whatever other bits we need, so I'll just run down there and I'll speak to him now and see what he says. I'm in the back seat of the Commodore because it's windy out there, it's starting to rain. I took this block down and Tony didn't like it. He preferred the one that I took yesterday, which was the one that Graham gave me with the Corolla. He didn't like the deck on this one and recommended using the other one. It's a much cleaner block, just generally around it. So we'll see what happens. He wants to bore the other one, and I'm dubious about that, but he's going to sonic test it as well. It could be, a much healthier platform. So that's about all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Oh, one thing I want to show you. Have a look at this. These are the headlights for the XC in their back, and I'll do a video on these. This is a let me just put a little slash in here. And you can just see how absolutely beautiful they are. And it's a really interesting process. It's done by High Qual in Caloundra in Queensland. And they do it by literally exploding a pellet of aluminium at 2,500 volts while these things are rotating in a cabinet. It's really fascinating stuff. So there'll be a video on these. I've got to get some, I think it's Sikaflex 227. But I just thought I'd show you that as something that's coming up. So I hope you enjoyed that, because I certainly did. And I was amazed at the cost of them. Now these things are almost impossible to get. And new old stock headlights can be well over $1,000. These are $150 each to get done. So if you do have some ruddy headlights but the lenses are in good nick, it's a no-brainer. So thank you, Mario, very much at High Qual. I'll do a video and I'll put them together and put a lens on and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, take care of yourselves and I'll see you soon.
My weight's been up and down like a yo-yo. I tried fad diets, powders, pills. Then I discovered the AIDS diet plan, which helped me lose weight and keep it off.
The AIDS diet plan helped me lose 28 pounds.
AIDS helps control your appetite so you lose weight. Yet AIDS lets you taste, chew, and enjoy. And the appetite suppressant in AIDS is not a stimulant.
AIDS helped me to lose 18 pounds, and it doesn't contain anything to make me nervous.
Question: why take diet pills when you can enjoy AIDS? AIDS helps you lose weight without making you jittery.
What do you reckon? Shit.